Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Manish Gupta.
And as I was planning this episode, coming out of last weekend, there were a couple things floating through my head for the intro, and I kind of eventually settled on the idea that week 5 was one of, if not the best weeks of football that we've had in the regular season in a very long time. And come Monday night, that passing, there was a whole new story that dropped that honestly completely stole the show, blew that out of the water. And I know that we had to start this episode off talking about it. And it's a tough subject to go over. On that day, we found out earlier, actually a couple of weeks before, like a week before or so, we found out about Jon Gruden and an email about Demaryius Smith, who it was using racist tropes. It was just a terrible email. And on Monday, a lot more released about I think Ian Rappaport called it a clean sweep of offending people across the NFL, across the country, tons of different groups, minority race groups, the LGBT community, women as a whole. It was absolutely horrible. And then the bombshell dropped right about second quarter of the Indianapolis-Baltimore game that he had resigned as the coach of the Raiders. And I knew at that point we had to start the episode off by giving our opinions just on this whole deal, on the whole saga, and on his resignation. I'll let you guys start it off. What was your instant reaction to the Jon Gruden news? And now that you've had a couple of days to think about it, what do you guys think?
Well, listen, I'll start this off by saying I don't see any way in any form or fashion how you can justify Jon Gruden's emails, because even if it was 10 years ago, like, it's not like he was a 20-year-old kid. It's not like, his brain was still developing. He was still figuring out stuff. He was a grown man. He was a grown man attacking the NFL using derogatory language. It's absurd. And it's truly just disheartening for me, because even 10 years ago, like, it's shocking. It's shocking. And this was part of a deeper dive into the Washington football team. So if you really think about it, this is just scratching the surface. There is worse stuff that could be found in this investigation. And Jon Gruden was just, something they found because the NFL was just able to leak it. But I have a lot of thoughts on Jon Gruden. One person that put it really well was Brandon Staley, head coach of the Chargers. I sent it to the chat, but he put it perfectly that we all got to come together, and a coach has this, I think he said something about like a sacred mantle of trust and respect. And I feel like being called coach, being called, the leader, you have to set an example. And that's something that, he strives for with the Chargers. And he's a great coach, by the way. I think him and Herbert are going to be a great duo. Probably two of the biggest, hirings, draft, it's two of the biggest decisions the Chargers have made in a long time. But I think what he said about, trust and respect, I agree with it 100%. As a coach, you just got to be able to relate to your players, because think about it. Carl Nassib is on that Raiders team, and he must have taken this horribly. Like, I feel really bad for him. He had to take a day off. So my thoughts go out to Carl Nassib. But I mean, it's a very messy situation. And Rich Bisaccia is now the head coach for the Ravens, serving as interim. I don't know what to make of this Gruden situation, but I just don't see any way how you could justify his behavior.
Yeah, it was when I found out, I was at first in disbelief. I didn't even think it happened. But, I think it was kind of like something that they discovered in the Washington football team investigation, or like, parts of it, I believe. So, it was just kind of this web that they entangled, and they're still trying to entangle it because we saw some stuff on Bruce Allen. So my thoughts are, again, and it's so, weird because we just talked about Urban Meyer, and now it's like a whole nother thing. It's with a coach, right? And, you're designed to be a leader of a team. People look up to you. You were trying to radiate this type of energy, motivation towards a group of guys that have their own brand, that have been raised, right? And, for years, right? Like, these are 20 to 30-year-olds that are looking at you to lead them still as adults. So, to do that must be very hard. And I think, one thing my dad always told me is that for trust, one thing it's you make a hard promise and you keep it. And I feel like coaches make a promise to their players every day to give that 110%. But the thing is, with trust, it's the hardest to gain and it's the easiest to lose. So, something like this, yeah, I mean, it's justified in him losing the trust of the entire organization. And, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about the Bucks taking him off the Ring of Honor. I don't think that's something that, is as important as the actual content of the emails. I thought that, especially in a league that is trying to change, in a sports world that is trying to change, it's, haltering that, and it's, sending us back. So I think that in itself is a pretty, bad look on Gruden. And it's also a bad look on, maybe everyone entangled with it. Also some of the organizations, because, the fact that this wasn't leaked out, especially, the whole Washington football team situation with the cheerleaders, that's, again, I don't want to talk about it. I just think that, it's not something that we can fully speak on until the full thing is out. I think they're still going on with the investigation, but in terms of football perspective, it's going to be hard for the Raiders to, really trust in a new leader. And I think that played into their loss in Chicago, and just from a football perspective. But to go back on the general landscape, really tough. Again, the trust is really, kind of shattered. And again, as Shrikar mentioned, for a guy like Carl Nassib, it's going to be tough. There's a lot of players that suffer from, this type of scrutiny, whether it be, I think, as Staley said, gender, race, sexual orientation. There's a lot of stuff, that has been kind of implemented in the NFL over the past few years. And I think this was just a step. It was kind of a obstruction in the stepping stones towards progress. That's kind of how I would put it. And, I'm glad it's kind of over, because you don't want this whole notion, oh, did they lose because Gruden is, still their coach and they're mad? I think they moved on. And, I'm glad as an NFL world, we can try and get past it. But I think as of right now, it's just tough pill to swallow. But, I think the NFL world will get through it.
Yeah. Before I move on to talk about kind of some of the other stuff that you were mentioning in the investigation, I want to make it completely clear. What Jon Gruden said, what he sent, was utterly and completely wrong. You cannot treat other human beings like that. And I want to be clear that we completely stand with everyone that was involved in that clean sweep. I mean, whether it be, women referees or the cheerleaders, or, gay players like Michael Sam and Carl Nassib, and players of minority races and everything like that Jon Gruden spent years and years and years and tons of emails absolutely defiling. It's terrible. And so we stand with all of y'all. And I think the part that you mentioned, Anish, is very interesting, and kind of one of the things that I kind of started to think about after the Jon Gruden news. So it is an investigation on Bruce Allen. And so this is a completely separate investigation. They weren't even investing Jon Gruden. They poured over 650,000 emails over the course of over 10 years. And Jon Gruden, he was part of that. And it shows that if someone like Jon Gruden is comfortable enough to send emails like that to Bruce Allen, and some of the emails involved other people as well. They weren't just single send emails, they were group messages. If Jon Gruden was comfortable enough to send those messages to Bruce Allen, who else was saying stuff like that, or other similar bad stuff to Bruce Allen about the Washington football team, whether it was completely separate in the NFL? We saw another little casualty of this investigation. Adam Schefter had sent Bruce Allen an unpublished article calling him Mr. Editor and telling him to let him know what he wants to change, showing that Adam Schefter was allowing Bruce Allen, we believe as of now, we don't know kind of the full stakes and exactly what happened, but the way it looks is Adam Schefter was allowing Bruce Allen to form the narrative of this article. There are other people out there, almost guaranteed. If you pour over 650,000 this guy's emails, there is more. There's tons more that can come out, and a lot of people are pushing for all 650,000 to be released. It'll be really interesting, because right now it seems like the NFL is deciding which stuff comes out. They allowed the Jon Gruden stuff to come out. They allowed the Adam Schefter stuff to come out. Right now they have access to every email. And it'll be really interesting, because honestly, they're the ones deciding what happens right now. I mean, them deciding to release stuff about Jon Gruden caused Jon Gruden to have to resign. I believe that they probably went to the Raiders with it first, telling them about it. And it seemed like they were a little bit pressuring them to fire him, and he resigned on his own. But there's more out there.
I think, quick note on that. I think it's just the NFL is a business. Say what you want. It is a business, and there's going to be corruption. I think that is what it is, right? Again, it's it's a privately kind of owned, right, league. and there's going to be corruption inside. There's going to be these little deals or these little exchanges, right? So I'm sure that these emails must have, who knows, maybe they were even discovered in like 2015 and they were just hidden. So we don't know how, does this go up to all the way up to Goodell? Does this go up to other owners? Like, I think that's also something that, we're going to see a little bit more of. I think this whole Washington investigation that happened before the team name change, I believe it was in early 2020, when, they obviously wanted to change the name, and then they kind of went into more investigation of Dan Snyder. I think it's just going to goes to show that there's a lot of corruption that's occurred in a business like this. And I think, be on the lookout. There might be more that, we might not even.
I think there's definitely going to be more, because now that the NFL has shown us that this Jon Gruden stuff is out there, everyone knows there's more. And eventually the NFL is going to have to release some small nuggets to, I guess, for lack of a better term, keep the public off their ass, because there will, if nothing else comes out and the NFL comes out, or maybe they don't even have to say it, that they're not going to release the rest of it. I feel like they have to release these little bits in order to keep the public satisfied, I guess, but there's more out there, and whether we see it or not, I think just the harsh reality and the tough truth is that there is this stuff going on across the NFL, from people that you probably wouldn't expect it from. I didn't think that Jon Gruden was like that. We had no idea.
And Jack, one more thing on you speak of like unexpected. Adam Schefter, like as an aspiring journalist, like that's obviously like the guy that I look up to. That is a clear example of bad journalism. You can verify with your sources. You can fact check. You can't just send over an unedited article and just say, here, just do what you want with it. Just make it good. That is the opposite of like what journalism is. You got to fact check and you got to verify. It's little things that you can tweak, but you just can't push it all out to Bruce Allen in this case.
And it hasn't been published whether he sent the entire article or just parts where Bruce Allen was quoted. So there's a chance that Schefter isn't as bad as it seems. But at this point, can we give anyone the benefit of the doubt, especially the people who have been involved in this investigation? I don't think we can. So. And it's a tough truth, but I think we're going to find out over the next couple months. Eventually, when this stuff's going to come out about the Washington organization as well. And there's going to be, I think, a lot of coming back and building back after some damage, because damage is going to be done. Could be done to your favorite franchise. It could be done to your favorite player, your team. It's completely unexpected right now. We're not going to speculate or anything like that, but there's more out there, and I think we're going to see it soon. To move on, this was an amazing week of football in past week 5. Like, there were some absolutely fantastic games, great performances by players. Before we get into our takeaways, I just want to know, like, how was your guys' football weekend? What games did you watch? I know I was following along the Browns and Chargers, and while they totally let me down, Anish, and didn't get me the win in picks, absolutely fantastic game. So how was your guys' football weekend, to move on from all that drama?
I'll keep mine short because I'm interested to hear Anish, but I told Jack in the early slate of games that a lot of games were setting up to have insane endings. And I feel like I was right about it. And I think this was a great week of football. Obviously, Anish has very, very, very contrasting thoughts from me, but some things I took away from the Niner game, at least, was Trey Lance isn't ready. He's definitely not ready, but he still has the potential to be a star next week. And I still think he will give you a better chance to win than Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm still defending that. I will die on this hill. But I think Trey Lance does give you a better chance to win in that. I think if Jimmy starts the Arizona game, I think it's a bigger margin of victory for the Cardinals. This is just my thoughts, just my opinion. But we're going to see Jimmy back next week against the Colts. We'll see Carson Wentz versus Jimmy Garoppolo. Anish is definitely excited to see that. But for right now, the Niners have a bye week, and I'm just going to be chilling this weekend, just going to grab some chips, watching good football.
Jack, you already talked about your football weekend?
Well, yeah. So I wanted to say, first of all, before you go off on a tangent about how
argument,
I will remind you.
I want to go uninterrupted because this football.
That's why I'm butting in first. I will remind you, he didn't say last week that Trey Lance is ready to start.
Oh yeah.
I will remind you,
he gives you a better chance to win.
Yes, I said he'd give you a better chance to win than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm still standing by that.
More ready.
Oh, and by the way, before, I don't want to interrupt you with this information. There was a graph that had on the x-axis, I believe, was turnover-worthy throws, and the y-axis
yes,
was,
I've seen this.
Great point.
Plays.
Yeah.
You know who was right there at
on the worst side?
Who was the worst?
Jimmy G.
It was Mr. Jimmy.
It was Jimmy G. Okay. Can I explain?
Go ahead.
This was the worst football weekend for any fan that could ever have possibly had one. I don't care about the games. I don't care that they were good. No, it was a terrible week of football, especially for me. First slate of games, 10 a.m. I'm waking up. I'm ready to watch some football. And I woke up earlier to watch some of the Jets game, which ironically, the Falcons players that I needed to do well didn't do well, except for Cordell Patterson, whom I love. But aside from him,
who else did you need to do well, dude? There was no one else playing for the Falcons.
Well, I would have liked to have Calvin Ridley out, which he wasn't.
You
knew
he wasn't going to play.
Exactly. So that made me really mad. Just that fact.
Also, you picked the Jets.
I picked. Yeah, right. I forgot about that. I had picked Jack's sorry football team that could not win 3 games last year, and a team this year that is god awful and could not beat the Falcons team, who almost falconed. So that happened. And then in the 10 a.m. slate, I'm doing great. I have a 5-team parlay that I put $5 down for, and I could have cashed out $101 if it was not for number 14 from the Carolina Panthers, the worst quarterback taken in the top 3 since Jamarcus Russell, Sam Darnold. I will forever not stand you. I am so mad. He's the one player that I just can't stand, and he ruins it for me yet again, doing what he does best, turn the football over and sees ghosts. Apparently, Darius Slay plays for Carolina. I don't know. Maybe he looks like DJ Moore. They wear the same number. But he could not throw the ball to win that game, and they're down 5. And I'm like, okay. Or they might have been down 8. I don't remember. Final drive. I don't know what they were down. I was like, okay, I just need a touchdown here. Please, Sam, just do something for once in your NFL career. And what does he do? He throws a pick. What a shocker. Sam Darnold is not good. The Panthers lost and cost me $100. Then we go to the Chargers Browns game, which were up 14. And then I had to go leave to watch my brother's football game. And the superstitions kicked in again. They blew a 14-point lead. And the worst PI call I've ever seen in the regular season. Someone who's 6'5" Mike Williams is grabbing AJ Green's jersey, and they call it on AJ Green. What? You know what? I don't get it. I don't get how you're looking and you don't see that. Whatever, blind ref, it's okay. And they lost because apparently Baker Mayfield can't be trusted on 3rd down, and Odell Beckham Jr. can't catch a crossing route 2 yards in front of him. You know what? But he's amazing. 78% gets open on all these routes, but he can't catch a crossing route 2 yards in front of him at the opposing 20-yard line. He's awful. I don't want him on the team. I want him gone. Now, the Browns lost. I had to see the numbers 47-42 for the next 5 hours in 7 different group chats, all plastered out there. And then Chargers fans are like, oh, Browns fans are crying. Okay, we didn't have our top 2 tackles. We didn't have Jadeveon Clowney. We didn't have our starting 3 cornerbacks. And we still put up 42. No turnovers. Still lost. I just want to see him again. I hate the 5 Chargers fans that are out there in the world. Maybe not even 5. You guys suck. Irrelevant franchise. So yeah, that's about the Chargers. And then Monday night, just when I think it cannot get worse, I was so excited to watch one of my favorite players play on Monday Night Football, Carson Wentz. And what does he do? He plays great. He has 400 yards. He leads them in every drive that they need him to. Did not punt once. And they lose. They blow a 22-9 lead to Lamar Jackson, who's the luckiest quarterback I've ever seen, because apparently a 66-yard field goal is just makeable. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's never fumbled in his professional career, fumbles to a rookie. And then freaking the Colts blow a 13-point lead, who gets blocked by a kick by a 6'8" dude who's damn near 40. And then, oh my God, Rodrigo Blankenship, a kicker with glasses, cannot see the upright, hooks it left 3 separate times, and they lose. They blow it in overtime because the Colts defense can't stop a cold. Literally, if I spat on the ground, they could not catch it. They are so terrible. The Colts, you suck. You let down Wentz. If it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman and Carson Wentz, that team would have been, and Darius Leonard, they would have been destroyed. I feel so bad. Worst football weekend ever. Now let's move on, because I hated week 5. I will never like a week 5 in an NFL season ever again. Now we can move on.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Can we please not disrespect Lamar Jackson?
Just
for my peace of mind.
He's a 4-leaf clover. He's a good.
Let's get this straight.
He's
Lamar
great,
Jackson,
but he has a 4-leaf clover on his back, and
Lamar Jackson has more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. He has more total
got the
yards
Ravens on his
than
back.
full
He's got the Ravens on
NFL
his back.
teams. He is carrying the Ravens. Are you kidding me?
Hollywood Brown's been playing.
They would be 1-4 if Lamar wasn't playing at an
Lamar
MVP
Jackson.
level.
Nah, he's an MVP candidate. I can't lie. Like I'm gonna be objective.
Hey, save it for my first take. Save it for my takeaway this week. I want to clarify one thing as well. Carson Wentz was good. Lamar Jackson was great.
I think Carson.
Yeah,
I'd say Carson Wentz was great.
Not in the first half.
Carson Wentz was great.
Okay,
I'd still say so.
The second half was the best second half I've ever seen. I'm not even gonna lie.
It's not how you start; it's how you finish, right?
Yes, that's why I said it was the best second half I have. No, I'm not even kidding. I'm just before your takeaway. I thought Lamar Jackson's second half was probably the best second half I have seen from like a quarterback ever. Like it was
fantastic.
It was great.
It was over 340 yards and a half. That's like
it was great, but the best second half I've ever seen from a quarterback is Tom Brady against the Falcons, and I don't think that's ever going to be.
Yeah, overreacting.
You can say regular season. You can say regular season.
Overreacting. That's just what I like to do. But you know what? Those 5 Chargers, whoever's a Chargers fan, and if they comment or say anything on the podcast for the next week, because I hope.
I invite all Chargers fans to comment, please.
Great.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to pick. We're gonna have to pick a game. We're gonna have to pick a game between these two sorry franchises.
I forgot Chargers Ravens.
I'm gonna have to pick.
That was an epic rant, and anyone who's new to the episode or to the podcast is wondering if all we do is just yell about the past week at all. Let's actually talk about it, break it down. We're doing one takeaway each this week, so we can kind of elaborate on them a little bit more. We don't have to go too fast, but like I mentioned before, my takeaway is about Lamar Jackson, and it is that he is definitely not a running back. And that may seem like something we knew after his MVP season, but shockingly, like there were a big group of people coming into this year thinking that the NFL was going to figure out Lamar Jackson. He was just a running back. He still couldn't throw. And I'm pretty sure that all those people are now gone. He's thrown for 1,512 yards, more than Patrick Mahomes, and the 5th in the league, 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And against your, I guess, second favorite team, Indianapolis Colts, Anish, threw 37 completions on 43 pass attempts. He only threw 6 incompletions on the entire day. So his first half couldn't have even been that terrible. 442 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and led the team in rushing with 62 yards, coming back down from those 13 points and winning in overtime. He's beaten the Chiefs this year. He came back with that fabulous Monday night performance. He is absolutely, definitely not a running back, and he might be my MVP pick through 5 weeks.
I'll say this. I think Lamar has definitely grown as a passer. Like, his poise in the pocket is so much better. Like, it's insane. That whole second half, as Anish said, one of the best second halves from a quarterback I've ever seen. Here's the thing. In my opinion, I said this earlier, but the Ravens would be 1-4 if it weren't for Lamar Jackson. Because even in that Detroit game, Lamar had to complete that 4th and long to even set up the possibility of a Justin Tucker record-breaking field goal. So we got to give Lamar credit there. Lamar pretty much won them that Chiefs game too. Without Lamar, they don't win that. So I'm really proud of Lamar Jackson. I think for my MVP candidates, I think it's a 3-way tie right now between Kyler, Lamar, and Brady. I got Herbert at 4. It's like there's no one that's outstanding right now, but it's just a bunch of guys that are in the mix, which I really love. But I'm very proud of Lamar. My takeaway actually had to do with the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks.
Let mine get around to Anish. We're not trying to drown him with 2.
Yes,
oh, okay.
Always get drowned with the 2.
I remember the format switch. Let's go to Anish.
Here's what I'll say. Well, okay, there was a delay of game after the 4th and 19, but I'll talk good about Lamar because I genuinely do think he's a great quarterback. And ever since he got drafted, I thought I was actually pretty high on him, especially that first year. I thought he could have gone all the way to the AFC Championship his rookie year, but I think now it's become less on, his dynamic ability and more of actually him being a passer. Like the Colts basically said, we're not going to let you beat us with the legs. Yeah, he had 62 yards rushing, but like, it wasn't, I think a 62 is different per game. You know what I mean? But I think the throws
and for Lamar, 62 yards is kind of keeping him in check.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Colts, what they would do is they would rush him and then they would keep back, right? Because you can't allow him to escape the pocket and then you're behind him. So they would play up front. And, you kind of have to do that. And especially against the Ravens, you kind of have to play this 1 high, deep safety. You can't play 2 because then you got to kind of stack the box a little bit. So that's why he was able to have the deep passing game with guys like Hollywood Brown. And he was just dotting him up over the middle. And that's a little bit more technical, but Lamar has been great this season. I've never been a Lamar hater. It's just, I'm angry that he's a rival, which sucks. because, he beats us a lot. And I think in terms of the MVP race, it's not really a takeaway for me right now, but I got Brady at clear cut 1. And I got everyone else kind of lagging behind right now. But I think
Allen's up there too.
I got that.
Yeah,
I was going to say my tier 2, though, is Allen, Herbert, Kyler, and Lamar. So they're all like right there in that same tier. So yeah, he's obviously an MVP candidate again this year. In fact, he's having better numbers this year than he was in the MVP year. But again, he kind of started a little bit slow and then ran away with it in the latter half in 2019. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I think I lost the whole running back narrative in 2019. I never really thought that teams could figure him out, just because, again, he can still throw it. Like he has an arm. It's not like, Herbert or Allen, but it's still really good. So I was never with that notion that he's like, a running back. But I think now people, like you said, Jack, the NFL world should recognize him as a top, qualified passer. That I'll give you.
And I was wondering if the 4-leaf clover on his back is the reason why he doesn't have his left tackle, and he lost both of his top running backs this year. Was that?
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
So, I mean, Lamar is doing this.
He's been great. Like, don't get me wrong. He's been great.
Yeah.
It's just the Ravens team. 66-yarder?
No, Lamar's doing it in the face of adversity in a contract year.
Yeah, and 3 primetime games too. Like that, I also want to throw like that. Everyone's seeing it. So big spotlight.
And let's be honest, I think he deserves over 40 mil. Like he deserves that top dollar contract.
Yeah.
I don't because you're not finding someone better than Lamar.
If I'm Baltimore, I want to lock him up. I thought he should have been locked up this offseason. I
did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they might have been a little bit nervous about him getting figured out, but
I didn't. I
don't think so. And the impressive thing to me is that the past years, his passing success has been largely created by their ability to run the ball. This year, it's not been the same thing. I mean, losing your left tackle and both your running backs, they just haven't been the same run it down your throat Ravens. He's creating
twice.
Everything.
And this year, I don't think they're even top 5 or 6. Like
Lamar had 16 yards. I think the next best rusher was 17 yards on the day.
Yeah.
Latavius Murray.
Over the offseason, Greg Roman was working with different sets. So I think I kind of saw more of a pass happy approach.
Yeah, I'm giving credit to Greg Roman. He deserves a lot of credit.
No, he's a great schemer. Should we get into my takeaway though?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Let's go to the Seahawks. Usually we'd say if you have Russell Wilson, you have a chance. And now I'm going to say no Russell Wilson, no chance. I think the Seahawks are finished. I do not believe in Gino Smith to keep the Seahawks afloat, especially in such a competitive division. I just don't see it happening. And really looking ahead towards the Seahawks' future, it's not very bright. Because keep in mind, you don't have a first-round draft pick this year. You got to pay Jamal Adams to be one of the biggest liabilities in coverage. And I have a lot of respect for Jamal Adams, but that's just a fact that can't be ignored. I don't know what to make of the Seahawks right now. And keep in mind, he's out for 4 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere in that range. So maybe when he comes back, something could spark, but that's a long time. And Geno Smith is going to be going up against some tough defenses. We're already seeing this week he's going up against Pittsburgh's defense. And that is a tough ask. Pete Carroll, I don't really believe in as much as I did in previous years as a head coach. I just don't think his style of coaching works anymore in the NFL. And for what it's worth, I think the offensive coordinator hire they made this year with Shane Waldron, I think it's actually pretty good. It's just the Seahawks might be in line for cleaning house sooner than we think. That's what I think. We could see Wilson on the move. We could see Carroll being fired. We could see John Schneider on the outs, but the Seahawks are in a very brutal spot right now. And this Wilson injury really just shakes things up in the NFC West and the NFC as a whole.
I think first off, Russell Wilson has been one of my favorite quarterbacks to, watch and, kind of like analyze, right? Especially on the pod too. And I think it's just growing frustration with Pete Carroll. Like, look, I know they kind of squashed it in the offseason, but I think it's still there. Like, look, and Pete Carroll is he's a defensive coach, right? Who's kind of this motivator, and he's still trying to instill this LOB type, right? Defense. And you just don't have the same personnel. You just don't. And I think that's the problem, right? That's why the Seahawks defense has been awful the last 3 years, hasn't been consistent.
And also Ken Norton Jr. Ken Norton Jr. is not Dan Quinn.
Yeah. Oh no,
like
he's
not even in the same realm.
Awful.
We
I
can't
know it was his
mention those
birthday
two.
last week, but he is awful. And what do you call it? The Seahawks again. Aside from that, like one half in 2020, they've been awful. And I think Russell Wilson just goes to show how good this man is. Like he has kept this franchise afloat, has never had a losing season under his belt. So, again, kudos to Russ. But yeah, I think Seattle this season, at least, loaded NFC West. You're going to have to play the Cardinals twice. You're still going to have to play the Rams one more time. Niners, you might get here and there because, again, it's not, I'm just kidding. But I think I'd pick everyone in the NFC West over them. And, for Gino Smith, listen, I know he got lucky on the DK touchdown, but I mean, he did the most pre-snap motions and reads I've ever seen from a backup quarterback. So, hey, I don't know on Gino. I'm not going to fully, discount him because he looked decent. I'm not going to blame that pick that he had to end the game against LA. So I'm not going to fully close him out just yet, but he's not going to uplift the team the same way Russell Wilson can. So I'll agree with you. I think it's kind of, more of like a, just like, yeah, Russ is gone. Seahawks are kind of gone thing. So I'll agree with you on that.
I think the interesting thing to think about is, yes, their future kind of might be no chance, and they might have to tear down after this season, start looking into moving Russ, moving on from Pete Carroll. I'm not completely sold on the idea that their season this year is over, though, because think about the teams they're probably going to be fighting for a wild card spot. And maybe guys like the Vikings, if they kind of start to pick it up, maybe teams like the Panthers or the Saints, the Niners in their own division, possibly. Definitely one of the two between Cardinals and Rams will have a wild card spot. But like, if we have 4 to 6 weeks of Gino, can he win 2 games? I think he probably could. Like, we haven't seen a real sample size for Gino since 2014, and somehow he's still a back to the NFL. I think that's just
see. Here's the thing with the NFC though. There's like 5 great or elite teams, and then there's a huge drop off, a huge drop off.
Can the Seahawks?
I don't know.
Figure it out for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Point.
Say you win 1 or 2 games. I think Russ can still possibly get them to a playoff spot. Like,
possibly,
I don't think it's
but look at the division he's in though. It's tough.
I'll side with
That's
Jack.
right.
I think it's, I can't fully count. Again, like I said, I'm not going to count out Gino either. Like, I'm not saying that, look, I think long-term, I mean, I've said this, right? I think on the very first episode we recorded, I said Russell Wilson will not win a Super Bowl in Seattle. I think we've said that. And, in terms of that perspective, sure. And I think I'll agree with you, Shrikar, long-term. I just think right now I can't fully count him out.
No, I actually think it's a fair point because as I said with that drop off, there's going to be a ton of teams in the mix. And if you have Russ back, you've probably got the best quarterback out of all those teams that are fighting for a wild card spot. So I think right there you have a big advantage.
Yeah. And
so
I think Sam Darnold would like to disagree with that. No, I'm kidding. But I do think if they can get Russ back, they might have a chance at knocking off the Cardinals once. I think that they probably don't beat the Rams again. I think they probably take one, if not both, from the Niners, because, like, if we're being honest, are the Niners done too? Because if you're going to say the Seahawks are done, I would say the Niners are too, which is crazy to think that 2 NFC West teams are already done this early in the season. We didn't think that was going to happen. But I think if they get Russ back in time in 4 or 5 weeks, and Gino was maybe able to win 1 or 2 games for them, I still think the Seahawks can possibly make the playoffs, which is funny because I didn't even have them making the playoffs coming into the season. But all it takes, I believe, is beating out teams like the Vikings or the Saints for that second wildcard spot. And I think it's possible. But after this year, like, how many young, good pieces would you say the Seahawks have? You could say DK Metcalf.
There's stuff there.
There's stuff there, but, like, is there really a ton to build around? Like, that's my question.
No,
with the way the Seahawks have been drafting,
I don't know.
Not
a lot.
With the way they draft, if they don't hit on their players, look at a guy like Jordan Brooks. It's kind of a wash. And so I don't know. After this season, I think they might have to start tearing down. That's why I've said, as much as I hate it, because Pete Carroll is literally one of my favorite people in the football world, I don't think he's fit to coach, head coach this team anymore. I think Russell Wilson might want out. And honestly, the Seahawks might have to look at starting a rebuild. So I like your takeaway, Shrikar. It just sucks that we have to see that so soon. And obviously, let's hope Russell Wilson gets healthy soon.
All right. So my takeaway after waiting and listening to these two is that Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback. No, it's that right now, I think Tom Brady is not Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. And this is like a second point because it is kind of Mahomes related. If Josh Allen or Justin Herbert were to win the Super Bowl this year, they would officially pass Mahomes as the best quarterback in football. That's my takeaway.
I agree with it 100%. Both of your points. Well, actually, the first one, as I said before, I think it's a mix. But how is Brady doing this? He's 44 years old and he's playing better than he did at 34. Like, that's absurd. First of all,
He's
a wizard. He's a wizard. I don't understand. He's the greatest player in NFL history. I know Anish argues he's the greatest American athlete ever. But I think to your second point, I agree with it 100%. I think Mahomes could definitely be toppled, from that one spot. And it could come earlier than the Super Bowl, quite honestly. I think it could come in January at some point.
Again, I need to see, right? I need to see you.
Because what if the Chiefs enter as a wildcard team and somehow lose in the first or second round while we see Josh Allen or Lamar or Herbert in the championship? Like, I think at that point, I would knock Mahomes down. But as of right now, I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in football.
And Anish, they can be the best quarterback in football and not have the best resume. Like,
I know
for sure.
But for me to doubt or, crown you as the best quarterback in football, right? That does take into account showing it in the biggest stage. I feel like you have to have something like that to represent the NFL.
I think as of right now,
that's always been my thing. And it's not that, like talent wise, right? You could even argue that Allen and Herbert have Mahomes like abilities, right? But the thing is, with Patrick Mahomes, this is why, to kind of quickly elaborate on why I think it, right? Because look, Mahomes has always played, and this was why I was skeptical his first year. He plays sloppy. He does. He lives and dies by the big play. It's how it is, right? There will be some throws where you go, what the hell? This is crazy. Back foot, cross body to Tyreek Hill for 75 yards. And then there will be times where he overthrows Travis Kelce, 5 to 10 yards for a pick. You're going to live and die by that. And I think now with the defense like this, with Steve Spagnuolo not being able to coach to save his life, okay, not like that, but Chiefs defense has been horrible. There's coming to a point where he can't really make up for it. And he's going to have to try these things. But, there have been some mishaps, right? He was up 11 against Baltimore and he threw that pick. That was his fault. Take it to the ground, live another day. Not everything has to be, this.
At the same time, though, some of Mahomes' picks are on his receivers because they're dropped or they go through his hands.
That's why that's Mahomes. But there are some plays and you're just seeing it a little bit more. Right. It's a little bit of this, not figuring out, but it's catching up to him. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm with you.
Herbert and Allen, I think they play a style that is less predicated on that. I saw an article and, also a take on that. Herbert and Allen put a little bit more touch on the football despite having a really strong arm. And I think that's why they don't sometimes overshoot these things that Mahomes does. And also footwork. I watch footwork. That's one of the biggest things I look at a quarterback. He has none consistency. And it's like, it makes me mad, but it's like he does it. So, but I think it is catching up to him. So yeah, keep going.
I think as of right now, if we're not going to put Mahomes at one, I think it's got to be Brady. Because if you're saying if we're going to take everything into account, I think Brady's right at number 2 behind Mahomes. And if we're saying who's the best quarterback through 5 weeks, I think it's Tom Brady right now. I think it's Tom Brady. It's just phenomenal stuff we're seeing from him this year, and he's aging backwards. It's like Father Time is losing to him. Max Kellerman was completely wrong. He fell off a cliff before Brady. It's actually insane. It's insane. But Tom Brady's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You guys know my take because I came on after the Sunday night game on Monday morning after I watched the condensed game, and I said, let me know if this take is way too hot. And I was really nervous you guys were going to say, oh my God, what are you saying? But I said, at the end of the year, Mahomes might not be considered the best quarterback in football.
He's at least not going to be the consensus best.
We thought the same thing. Great minds think alike. But I'm telling you, I think it is something that should be said. And also with Tom Brady, dude, I can't. I mean, to play professional football, okay? Like football, we're a sport where you tackle, right? And get hit. And he's 44 years old. I cannot stress that enough. And he's playing at some of the best, highest level ever. I mean, 5 touchdown, 400-yard game. I mean, that's why I'm telling you, I think he's the best and greatest quarterback ever. And I think he is the best American athlete ever. I'm just
if Brady wins the Super Bowl again this year, is he then going into next year the best quarterback in football?
I think he is.
Yes.
At his age, is that still allowed to be said? Now, what about Lamar? Like you said, Allen and Herbert. If you were to win the Super Bowl, right?
I think there are some factors. There will be some factors that go into it, right? Because you can still put Mahomes up there, and it depends on how you win, who you play, right? That sometimes happens, right? Does the defense kind of carry you, or did you really step up and win your team the game like Mahomes did in Super Bowl 54? I think that will kind of factor in. So, but I think, guys, that's why I said Allen and Herbert. I still think they're a little bit above Lamar Jackson. I still think they are. I think Herbert has passed Lamar. I was gonna say that.
That's big. Yeah.
But I think those two guys just have a little bit of a more consistent game and what is more predicated to the playoffs. And again, like I said with Lamar, you can just play back there. And look, I get it. He had 400 yards, but the Colts were missing their top 3 players in the secondary. I'm just saying it's not a knock. It's just out there. So, and when the game slows down, can Lamar really beat out the Colt, with his arm and not just his legs? That remains to be seen. And I feel like Allen and Herbert have a better chance to do that.
Did you see my top 10 quarterback list that I put together yesterday?
I did, and I agreed with it because all those names, I feel like there's an undisputed top 10 right now. And
I think there's the names are undisputed.
The rankings, whatever.
So tough.
Yeah, the rankings, I'm not going to get you. I just need those 10. And it really sucks and it hurts me because I have to remove a guy like Tannehill.
Yep. Because I came into the season arguing because Tannehill before this season, like before these 5 weeks, had been a top 10 quarterback over the last 2 years. He just hasn't been this year, and it's tough. I think
it's just people have been playing better, right? Like
that is true.
It's not even Tannehill's fault.
That's true. It's tough. If you guys are actually watching on YouTube, I'd be really interested to see. Here's the list. First of all, take the names, put them in the order that you want in the comments. I had Mahomes, Brady, Allen, Lamar, Rodgers, Wilson, Herbert, Dak, Kyler, Stafford. That's kind of the way I put it together. I wanted to bump like Allen up to 2 because I feel like Allen has also been playing like the best
freaking Allen, baby.
But he just
he's back.
With the way Brady has been, you can't put in there. And then Kyler, I wanted to put above Dak, but just because of length of success, and I think you could argue that like statistically Dak has been better than Kyler this year.
Yeah, no, I think Dak has been better than Lamar.
I disagree with that.
Yes, but look,
it's close. I'll give you that.
Close, but Dak has won me over this year. I was never the biggest Dak fan.
That's true.
So
he's improved. That's the craziest part. So it's been kind of like a really weird hodgepodge of quarterback talk right here. But if you guys are on YouTube, like go down in the comments, let us know how you would arrange those 10 into your top 10 list. If there's someone else that like you don't think is supposed to be top 10 from that undisputed top 10 we're talking about, we'd love to hear it down in the comment section. You guys ready for picks?
Let's do it.
So you guys fans have had a good last couple weeks. I say it every week on our Instagram, down in the description. You find it, you go, you vote on the polls. You guys have heard it 1,000 times. You get it. You guys are now have 51 wins. I believe it's 51-29 or it's 51-30.
Yeah,
51-29.
51-29. Shrikar and I 50-30. Anish down there 49-31. But it's close, and
it is very close.
You guys have had a good last couple of weeks, and so we'll see if you guys can keep it rolling this week. But I don't know. I'm feeling kind of confident about this week's bit of picks, and I feel like some things haven't quite gone our way yet, like the Browns last week, because they let up 26 points in the fourth quarter to the Chargers.
Let's go, baby.
Can we?
Let's go.
Can we?
Yeah. Hey, well, let's hope this is a better week of football
than I want to relive, but
than last week for you, Anish. But game one, I would like to think about, can we offer contingency on this one? Because there could be a really big swing based on injuries and who's playing. It's Panthers and Vikings. Both Dalvin Cook and CMC are not a guaranteed play. I know we're recording this on Thursday and CMC did not actually practice today. I would like to, if you guys are okay with it, offer contingency for this game and then one more later that I'll get to. You guys good with that?
I guess I'm fine with it.
So I'm going to go with the Panthers contingent on whether Christian McCaffrey plays. If he doesn't play, I'm probably going to switch it over to the Vikings because I think that Darnold is just so much better with McCaffrey in the offense. And I've said that I'm not afraid to admit that. He had a terrible week last week, but this situation for him is so much better with CMC. The offense is so much more opened up because basically you can't leave the first 10 yards unattended because he can attack it in the receiving game either way. And he's so much more of a dangerous runner than Chuba Hubbard is. So I feel like Darnold has a good game if McCaffrey plays, might struggle a little bit more if he doesn't. And I think that the Vikings are vulnerable against the run. And so if McCaffrey plays, I think I'm going with the Panthers. If not, I think I'd probably switch over to the Vikings.
It's a very, very crucial game because whoever loses this game, first of all, you don't have the tiebreaker and you're practically just sliding. Like you are sliding. Yeah. I'm going to go with Carolina as well. It's definitely contingent on McCaffrey, but I feel like if McCaffrey plays, this is a get right game for Sam Darnold. He's thrown 5 picks over the past 2 games. He has not looked good. He's not looked good. And I don't know what you want to attribute that to, Jack, but I mean, Darnold hasn't been himself, but
it's
I'm going to go with Carolina.
No, he has been himself.
It's Anisha's fault.
Yes, if you want to put it that way. I'll go with Carolina.
So I'm being asked to bet again on a guy that has let me down constantly. I'm glad there's a contingency just so I can say I'm going with the Vikings right now, because I do not want to bet bet with Sam Darnold ever. I think Minnesota's riding a little bit with this win. I think, maybe some momentum. Again, they outplayed Arizona in Arizona. So, again, there's a contingency going on. Christian McCaffrey, again, his value to the team is immense. Like the yards per play dipped by 4.5, I think total. If dipped by 5 in the 1.5 games that they played without him, then I think it shortened a little bit week 5. But yeah, goes to show how good of a running back he is. They need him. I will objectively state that Sam Darnold is a lot better with CMC and looked good with CMC in a couple halves. But yeah, I'm taking the Vikings here. There's a contingency, so I can just say that. But yeah, Sam Darnold, you are not going to let me down again.
I think he's going to let you down because he's going to beat you and you're going to lose and have fun further down in last place. But our next game, Packers versus Bears, big rivalry matchup. I mean, you kind of have to take the Packers. Aaron Rodgers has just dominated this rivalry over the past couple of years, especially. And right now with the Bears, I know they beat the Raiders this week. I'm still not very inspired by their play. And they've lost David Montgomery for a little bit of time. Damian Williams isn't even going to be playing in this game. So it's Khalil Herbert, who is admittedly, pretty solid running back. But is he really going to shoulder the load and go out and be able to beat the Packers, especially when the Bears have shown they don't want to throw the ball at Justin Fields? I don't think so. 2 questions I think are interesting coming into this game. Can Jalen Johnson have another good game against Devontae Adams? He's been really solid this year, but Devontae Adams is a different breed. So we'll see how that goes. And can Allen Robinson show up on a football field? Like maybe the most disappointing player in the league this year, hasn't done anything. Big rivalry matchup, a good time to kind of break out of the big slump he's been in. Those are the 2 questions that I have, but I'm still going with the Packers.
If the Packers win this game, I mean, you could say this already, but the NFC North is just a wrap. The Packers are going to win. I don't know. It's just very tough to see Justin Fields outdueling Aaron Rodgers, even if he's in Chicago. So I'm going to take the Packers. I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers here.
Green Bay sweep. Love Justin Fields. Great win on the road against, a tough Raiders team. Obviously, there was, some outside stuff that we don't want to get into, but great win for Chicago. But yeah, I think I got Green Bay here. No Jair. So let's see if, these receivers can step up, but like the Bengals did. And, that game went down to the wire. I was very impressed with, Cincinnati, and then Green Bay. It kind of held it down at the end. They should have won it in more ways than one, Mason Crosby. But yeah, I got the Packers here.
And normally throughout the first 4 weeks, we've had some pretty great primetime matchups that we talk about at the end of picks. But this week, I'm going to completely go through those now just because the games kind of in that middle slate are so much better. We'll save the big games of the week for the end of picks. So on Monday night, Seahawks, Steelers, absolutely hate this game. Sunday night. I absolutely hate this game. It's
so hard to pick.
I don't want to pick Pittsburgh, but I can't pick Gino Smith. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think that their defense is the best side of the football of the 4, Steelers offense, Steelers defense, Seahawks offense, Seahawks defense. And so I just trust them a little bit more. If Gino Smith proves me wrong, so be it. Like if he's going to go out and win, what can I say? But I'm not going to pick him in his first week as the starter.
Big Ben versus Gino Smith. Listen, I'll say this: if you want to see, if you turn on the channel, if you go to NBC and you're looking for, I want to see a great quarterback duel, I want to see some awesome quarterback play. What I'm going to need you to do is you're going to not even change the channel, just turn off the TV. You're going to unplug the TV. You're going to open your window, and you're okay. I won't go that far. This is a terrible matchup. Why couldn't the Chargers and Ravens be in prime time? Like, are you kidding me?
Cardinals Browns.
Any of those games, but I'll go with the Steelers. Oh my God. I'll go with the Steelers. I'm not even going to give an explanation. Big Ben beats Geno Smith. No.
Hey, it feels like 2013, Big Ben, Geno Smith. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers here too. Again, like Jack said, I was gonna say kind of the same thing. I trust the Steelers defense more than I trust any other side of football. Again, Geno looked good, so I'm hoping the Seahawks win. Obviously, as a AFC North fan, but I think Steelers at home. The terrible towel is gonna be rocking. No 12th man to kind of help Seattle. I got the Steelers here.
Yeah, another game that I absolutely hate: Raiders versus Broncos. This game's in Denver, so I'm going to end up going with the Broncos, but I really don't want to go with either team. And we talked about Jon Gruden before, and I feel like the fallout might take the Raiders a little bit of time to get over. It's hard to see them going out and upsetting Denver in Denver, one of the hardest places to play, if not the hardest place to play in the league on the road. And I just think the Raiders, I don't think they can bounce back so quickly, go out and get a win under first game head coach Ray Vikash. I don't know how to pronounce it yet. I got to learn it.
Bisaccia.
Yeah,
I take Italian. Don't worry. I got this.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out eventually. But I just don't think the Raiders are going to put it all together under the sky week 1.
I agree with you. I'm going with the Broncos. Look, the Broncos are desperate. The Raiders are desperate, but the Raiders just fired their head coach. And, I mean, I think there's just going to be more fight, more punch, more juice from Denver. And especially playing in Mile High. It's very tough. I got to go with Denver here.
That Mile High air, I love it. And I love using it to pick it. But yeah, I got Denver too. I believe Gruden was the play caller for LV. So that's, huge stint. Can you really fix it in 6 days? I don't know. But, we've seen sometimes where coaches are let go and, teams come out firing. So, we've seen that. We've also seen the other side with the Panthers and Rivera. So, I don't know. I'm going to, it's tough to say what the Raiders will do. I'm just leaning more on the stable franchise right now, which is Denver.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your point. The reason I didn't go, I'm normally the type of person to be like, oh, they're coming off of, they're finally back after COVID, or, their coach was just fired. They might be unlocked. We really haven't seen coaches fired in this way. Most coaches get fired for the football field. Jon Gruden got fired for something completely different. So yeah. I decided not to go with that little approach. The other game before we get to the 2 big games of the week, it's a big name matchup. It's Cowboys Patriots. I said I'd treat the Cowboys like one of the best teams in football. And I feel like that starts by me not doubting them in matchups like this one. Like if this were the regular Cowboys we've seen the last couple of years, I would probably come out here and say it's Belichick. The Cowboys normally choke these kind of matchups, and I'd probably go with the Patriots, but I'm going to stick by my word. I'm trusting the Cowboys. They should win games like this, and I think they will this week.
Dak is playing some of the best football of his career. The Cowboys are looking elite right now. I mean, New England won the game last week against Houston, but they needed a miracle. They needed Houston punting a ball off their own teammate to win the game. Like, come on. I'm not, even if it's in Gillette, I'm taking the Cowboys here. I can't bet against Dak right now.
Here's what I'll say. I actually think this is a huge test for Dallas because they've beaten 2 teams that, were in this mediocre tier, right? At home by a lot. They did what they're supposed to do. And even the Patriots, it's a team talent-wise you should beat. But it's at Foxborough. It's a later game, right? And, kind of this PTSD maybe you had 2 years ago when Amari got shut down by Gilmore and they got held 13-9, right? I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that. I think, if they can kind of right that wrong, it's a huge stepping stone for a team to go 5-1 and really establish themselves in the entire NFC, in the entire NFL. And I think they do that. I think Dak really steps it up. Again, 13 touchdowns with 3 picks. He's been phenomenal this year. So yeah, I'm going to go with Dak in the Cowboys. But again, this is a tough one. I think this is going to be tougher than most people think.
Cardinals and Browns was the other game.
I call last. I'm not picking a Browns.
It was the other game I want to offer contingency for, just because the Browns have so many names on their injury report. Nick Chubb did not practice again. And there's so many different names. Almost the entire offensive line. Wills has been out for a couple of weeks. The entire cornerback
room. Secondary.
So I'm going to, as of right now, I'm going to pick the Browns. Just because I'm literally just going to keep picking them in these games because I think they're better than the teams that are going up against coming into the year until they make me look good. But if the Browns injury report does not clear up and we get some key, players being out, specifically Wills, Ward, and Newsome, I'll probably switch back over to the Cardinals just because I think the Cardinals would be better than a Browns team without those players. But I still want to believe in the Browns. I feel like the bones are there. One week they have a great defensive performance. The next week the offense completely shows up. They're going to put it all together. I think Baker's going to put it together. So I think they can actually dethrone the last undefeated team in the NFL right now, the Cardinals, just contingent on those injuries.
I think this line is very interesting. I feel like Arizona should be favored. They're undefeated, and they're coming in as underdogs.
Favored?
You're
The
favored
Browns,
by
the
3.
Browns are favored.
What?
Yeah, it's a very, very weird line. I'm expecting a ton of points. Just right off the bat, I'm expecting a shootout. And you know what I say about shootouts in Baker Mayfield?
Okay.
Who do I trust at the end of a game in the game-winning drive? I'm picking Kyler Murray. I'm picking the Cardinals, and obviously there's contingency involved with this. But I'm going to go with Arizona. I think this is definitely a contender for game of the week, and I think we're going to see a great game. I'm going to pick Arizona.
Great. You just gave me PTSD for what you said last week and what happened. Great. All right. Well,
Side with me.
Tyler hurt his shoulder, was limited on Wednesday. I don't know if he practiced fully today. I didn't check. But yeah, Browns got a lot of injuries. We had a lot at LA and still put up 42 and like 500, something yards. I'm going to take us. Okay. I'm going to pick the Browns. We're at home. Both our losses have been on the road. I think we right the wrong here. I still remember that game we got blown out by Arizona 2 years ago. I think we right the wrong. And, this is a huge, again, it feels like every game is a huge game for Baker Mayfield, but he just keeps dragging the narratives with him. Like, you can keep questioning him after every week. And I just want him to answer him. And Odell Beckham, I want you off the team. It's no hate. It's just, I don't want these questions.
I want you off the team. But
I just don't
in a non-hateful
I don't
way.
want this is my point. It's not even a question of who's worse or like whose fault. It's just, I don't want the questions. I'm done with it. I want to move on. I love Jarvis Landry.
You bring up the question all the time, though. That's the thing.
But see, and I don't want to. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to think in my head or ask you guys or ask our fans what we think about this situation. I wanted to move on. So hopefully, he brings a $15 million hit next year. Hopefully he's gone by the end of the year. No hate. He's a great receiver. I've loved him. But yeah, I just don't think it's a fit. And I'm taking Cleveland here. It'll be really tough though. Kyler Magic, but I think if anyone can kind of contain him, it's this Browns defensive line. So, because again, Herbert kind of beat us in the pocket rather than outside.
Yeah, I honestly disagree with you, Shrikar, on the idea that this will be a high-scoring game. I feel like, honestly, this is probably like both teams score just around like 25-ish, maybe up to like 30
I agree
points.
with you too. I was going to say
And I think one of the main reasons I took the Browns, if they're healthy, I think they can run the ball well enough to keep Kyler off the field. Like that's kind of the big key to beating these big quarterbacks like Mahomes or Allen or Herbert or Kyler or Lamar. If you can keep them off the field, they don't have very many chances to go beat you.
I'll say that too. You want to know how many 4th down conversions the Chargers like actually went through? Like, again, it's not luck or some of it is, but like, they converted 3 on 1 drive. Like, I mean, there's no way you're telling me that the Browns are going to allow that many 4th down conversions to happen in a game. So, and
most teams won't try as many.
Yeah, exactly. Cliff is not Brandon. Brandon Staley has the utmost trust in Herbert. I don't think they have the same amount of trust in Kyler to do what they did. I mean, 4th and 7 on your own 30. Like
against great offenses, though, who knows? I mean, I'll give you Minnesota. You held them to 7.
Yeah,
but
I'm not
33 to the Chiefs, 47 to the Chargers. You let up 21 to Houston, and Houston's not, But I don't know. I can see your point, but I still think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I feel like the game flow part of it will keep it from being a high-scoring game, though.
No, for sure. I hear you.
With Jack on this one.
I hear you.
Yeah. So we got
the biggest game of the week, though, and the one that like flip-flopping back and forth. It's a combination of like my takeaway from this week and my takeaway from the other week, where it's like Herbert versus Lamar, the Chargers versus the Ravens. I'll go last on this one. I've done you guys a favor and gone first on every single one.
I'll go first.
Shrikar can start. He's confident.
I'll go first. Yeah. Actually, I told Jack that, I wasn't going to come up with a decision until, I was on the spot, but I actually came up with it, while we were talking about Herbert and Lamar. Look, I'm going to take the Chargers. And, it's not exactly a confident pick, but I am picking the Chargers to win on a game-winning field goal or a game-winning touchdown. And I never thought I would ever say that about a Chargers team, but this year is different, man. This year is different. I feel like I can be confident about that the Chargers can win shootouts, that they can win these type of games. So I'm taking Herbert over Lamar. Even though Lamar has been playing out of his mind right now, I'm going with the Chargers to win it late.
All right, so I'm going second here. I hate this game. I hate having to pick between these two teams that have shattered my heart in back-to-back days. I'm not going to go in the rant. I'm picking actually the Chargers too. Look, again, like I said, what Lamar did, it was great. Colts had injured secondary. I trust the Chargers defense more than I trust the Colts defense right now. And the Chargers offense has been sensational. It has been on another level. And I know Marlon Humphrey is there, but you cannot stop both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And then Austin Eckler, a guy who I was so high on coming into the year, I drafted him in every league, literally every league, and all six. Drafted him as in every one of them. He's been sensational in terms of a runner and a catcher. I'm going to go with the Chargers, I guess, in an upset. And I think the Ravens 4-leaf clover finally catches up.
There really is no upset with this game.
Yeah.
No, there shouldn't be.
According to the line, maybe.
But I think these are the teams that you could argue, right? It's Chargers, Ravens, and Bills, right? Or people.
Oh, it's Baltimore -3.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, good.
Well,
That's
they
a
are at
big
home, so
spread.
that means
Yeah,
in a neutral site, it's an even game. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes
I
a little
guess
bit of
so.
sense. No, I have in a fantasy league, I've got a Herbert and Eckler stack, and that put me up like 75 points last week in a regular scoring league, like just PPR. And I'm going with the Chargers too, which I'm really surprised, honestly, that we went Chargers sweep. And here's the reason why. If Marlon Humphrey was able to lock down like Michael Pittman last week, I would have thought that the Ravens had a better chance. And the Ravens defense as a whole, I just don't trust as much as I have in past years. Like they have not looked like the Chargers or the Ravens defense of old. And there's just been so many like narrative switches between these two teams this year. The Ravens not being able to run the ball quite as well, not being able to play defense as well. And the Chargers have gone in 2 consecutive weeks, games that would have been chargered away the last couple of years, and they haven't. And that is absolutely huge. I'm going to go with the Chargers because I trust their wide receivers more, because you can't lock down. You're right. Both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And I think if it comes down to a defense needing to make a stand or make a play, it's so weird, but I trust the Chargers defense more. And honestly, I don't know if it comes down to a game-winning field goal. That I'd be a little bit more nervous about, just because of the way that, first of all, the way kickers have been recently. My God, that was the worst week of kicking I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, if I never want to see Rodrigo Blankenship on anything
or Mason Crosby or Evan McPherson.
Yeah, I mean Crosby still had his fair share of highlights, so
I feel like Crosby had one of these games like last year.
He did. He had so many missed kicks, and then he came out the next week and was awesome.
Yeah, it was perfectly fine.
There were either 13 or 14 missed extra points. That's insane. That's horrible. But anyways, I'm going with the Chargers. Justin and Herbert. I think it's going to be an absolutely fascinating, entertaining game, just like last week, Chargers and Browns. But I'm going with the Chargers, and that. For Chargers fans, first of all, I know they're going to probably be upset because they think that we're jinxing this game, but like the fact that the national media, as well as like just random people talking about football, are believing in the Chargers enough to go beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in Baltimore, that is a huge shift. You've got the right coach, first of all, like Shrikar mentioned earlier, and the right quarterback. Couldn't be more excited for this game.
Who had him for coach of the year? I did.
So did I think. No, I had McDermott. I had McDermott. He was my second, though. He was my second. But anyways, that's all we got for you guys today. If you enjoyed the episode and you're on YouTube, please consider hitting a like, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you're on Apple Podcasts, feel free to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star review if you did enjoy. Don't forget to hit up our Instagram to vote on the polls. They'll be out the day that you're hopefully watching this on Friday. Enjoy your NFL weekend. We know we will definitely going to be sitting down to watch that Chargers and Ravens game. But thank you guys so much for listening. We've been the Cold Hard Truth Podcast, and we will see you next time.